Look, let me ask you something. Have you ever opened your bank app, seen a decent balance, closed it, and still felt weirdly anxious? Like, technically you're fine. You paid your bills. Nothing is overdue. Your account isn't screaming red numbers at you. And yet, in the back of your head, there's this quiet thought that goes, yeah, but if something happened, I'd be screwed. That feeling. That is not you being dramatic. That is not you being bad with money. That's because the biggest money problem most people have doesn't show up on their bank statement. And here's the thing. Your bank balance is very good at telling you how much money you have today. It is absolutely terrible at telling you how safe you actually are. So real quick, my name is Ryan, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people can be doing everything right with money and still feel completely stuck. If you're someone who makes decent money, pays their bills, avoids dumb purchases, and still feels like one bad month away from panic, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're talking about the money problem nobody warns you about. Not debt, not spending, not income. It's the invisible one. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Psychology before math. Alright, let's talk about the thing that's quietly messing with your finances, even if your bank account looks fine. Because here's the thing. Most people think money problems are loud. Overdraft fees, credit card balances, late payments, and yeah, those are problems. But those are the obvious ones. The problem I want to talk about today is way sneakier, because it hides behind what looks like doing okay. Your bank balance is comforting, and that's the trap. Look, checking your bank account feels productive. You open the app, you see a number, you do a quick mental check, bills are paid, I've got a cushion, I'm good, and your brain relaxes. That's not an accident. Psychologically, humans crave visible certainty. We like numbers we can point to and say that's safety. But here's what most people don't realize. Your bank balance is a snapshot. Your financial life is a movie. And judging your financial health by your balance is like judging your physical health by stepping on a scale one time and calling it a day. The scale might say you're fine. Meanwhile, your blood pressure, stress levels, and sleep are all a mess. Your balance tells you how much money you have today. It tells you almost nothing about how long that money would last if your life changed. And that's the part people avoid thinking about. Why this feels so uncomfortable to even consider now. You might be thinking, okay, but I'm not irresponsible. I don't spend like an idiot. I get it. And this is important. This is not a discipline problem. This is a psychology problem. Your brain is wired to avoid imagining negative futures, especially ones where you lose control. So instead of asking, what would happen if my income stopped? We ask, am I okay right now? Instead of asking, how resilient is my setup? We ask, is my balance higher than last month? Because the first set of questions is emotionally uncomfortable, the second set feels safe. And this is where people get stuck for years. The stats that should make you pause. Let's ground this in reality for a second. According to the Federal Reserve, roughly 37% of adults would struggle to cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. And people hear that stat and go, yeah, but that's not me. Okay, fair. Here's the part that doesn't get talked about as much. A 2023 report from Pints and Lending Club found that over 50% of people earning more than $100,000 per year are still living paycheck to paycheck. 6 figures. On paper, doing great. In reality, no margin. So what's happening? Are these people bad with money? Lazy? Financially illiterate? No. They're financially fragile. The real problem isn't income. It's fragility. This is where it gets really interesting. Financial fragility is what happens when your financial life only works as long as nothing goes wrong. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine someone with $8,000 in their checking account, $100,000 salary, no credit card debt, normal expenses. Sounds solid, right? Now let's look under the hood. After taxes, they bring home about $5,800 per month. Their fixed expenses are $4,900. That leaves $900 of breathing room. If they lose their job, that $8,000 doesn't last very long. $4,900 per month in fixed costs means they hit zero in less than 2 months. 2 months. That's not financial security. That's a financial optical illusion. And this is the trap. The balance looks good. The system is brittle. Why high earners fall into this more than anyone. Here's a hot take that makes people uncomfortable. High earners are often more financially fragile than lower earners. Why? Because higher income gives you permission to build a life that only works at that income. Bigger apartment, nicer car, more subscriptions, more I deserve this. And none of those things are bad on their own. The problem is when your entire financial life requires everything to keep going perfectly. No gap in income, no health issue, no family emergency. That's not freedom, that's pressure. And most people don't feel that pressure consciously. They just feel anxious. The emotional cost, no one talks about this, is the part that doesn't show up in spreadsheets. Financial fragility creates low grade, constant stress, overthinking small purchases, guilt when spending money that should feel fun, avoidance of financial planning altogether. You know that feeling where you could afford something, but buying it feels irresponsible. That's not about the purchase. That's your brain saying, I don't trust this system. And when you don't trust your system, you start making weird decisions. You either overspend to cope, or freeze and underlive your life, sometimes both. The lie we tell ourselves, here's the lie almost everyone believes at some point. I'll feel secure once I make more money. Look, more income helps, obviously. But income doesn't automatically create stability, structure does. If your expenses rise at the same speed as your income, nothing changes except the numbers. You're still one disruption away from chaos. It's just a more expensive version. Why this problem is invisible. And this is why this money problem doesn't show up on your bank statement. Your statement shows balances, transactions, categories. It does not show time, flexibility, optionality. It doesn't tell you how many bad months you could survive. It doesn't tell you how easily you could downshift your lifestyle. It doesn't tell you how fast you could recover from a hit. Those are the numbers that actually matter. And most people never calculate them. The quiet realization at some point, usually late at night, people realize this. They're doing fine, but they don't feel safe. And instead of naming the real issue, they blame themselves. I should be better with money. I shouldn't feel like this. Other people have it worse. But this isn't about gratitude. It's about resilience. And once you see that, the entire conversation about money changes. Because the goal stops being, how much money do I have? And becomes, how much disruption can I handle? That shift is where real financial freedom starts. Systems over salary. Alright, now that we've named the real problem, financial fragility, it's time to do the part most people skip. The math. Not the scary, spreadsheet from hell math. The useful math. Because once you see these numbers, it becomes painfully obvious why. Checking your bank balance doesn't tell you what you think it does. The three numbers that actually matter, here's what most people don't realize. There are only three numbers that tell you whether you're financially safe. Monthly burn rate, time to near recovery speed, that's it. Not net worth, not your salary, not your credit score. Those are context. These are survival. Let's break them down. 1. Monthly burn rate, the number you avoid on purpose. Your burn rate is simply how much it costs to exist each month. Not what you plan to spend, not your ideal budget. What actually leaves your account, rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, food, subscriptions you forgot about, minimum debt payments. Let's say your burn rate is $4,500 per month. That number doesn't care how hard you work. It doesn't care how smart you are. It shows up every 30 days regardless. And this is where people get uncomfortable. Because once you know this number, you can't unknow it. 2. Time to nil. The reality check. Time to nil is how long your current cash would last if income stopped. Let's keep it simple. You have $9,000 in cash, $4,500 burn rate that gives you 2 months. 2. Now, people hear that and immediately go, well, I'd cut back if that happened. Maybe, but emergencies rarely show up politely and wait for you to optimize. Job loss, health issue, family emergency. The first month is chaos, not efficiency. Time to narrow tells you how much thinking room you have, and most people have way less than they think. 3. Recovery speed, the hidden killer. This one is huge, and almost nobody talks about it. Recovery speed is how fast you can rebuild after a financial hit. Let's say you burn through $10,000 during a rough period. If you can only save $300 per month, that's almost 3 years to recover. 3 years of feeling behind. 3 years of anxiety. 3 years of being scared to spend. That emotional hangover is what keeps people stuck. Why raises don't fix this? The math everyone ignores. Now you might be thinking, okay, but once I get a raise, this all gets better. Look, I wish that were true. Let's run the numbers. You get a $10,000 raise. After taxes, that's about $650 per month. Sounds great until life absorbs it. Higher rent, more eating out, a nicer car, better quality of life. Suddenly that $650 is gone. Not because you're bad with money, but because humans adapt. This is called hedonic adaptation. Your brain recalibrates what normal feels like, and now that level of spending feels non-negotiable. So your burn rate rises right along with your income. Nothing changes except the stakes. The stability gap most people never see. This is where it gets really interesting. There's a massive difference between having money, having control, having options. Most people only focus on the first one. Cash without control is fragile. Control without options is exhausting. Options without cash are theoretical. Real stability lives where all three overlap. Think of it like oxygen. Having money is breathing. Having savings is holding your breath. Having systems is carrying an oxygen tank. One lets you survive. The other lets you move. The objection everyone has, and why it's wrong, at this point, someone always says, "Okay, but I don't want to live like a monk." Good. You shouldn't. This isn't about deprivation. It's about flexibility. The goal isn't to spend less forever. It's to be able to spend less when you need to. If 80% of your expenses are fixed and untouchable, you're fragile. If you can temporarily cut your burn rate in half without destroying your life, you're powerful. That difference is everything. The practical fixes, you can do these immediately, alright? Let's talk solutions, not vague advice, actual levers you can pull. 1. Build a real emergency fund, not the Instagram version. An emergency fund isn't a random number of vibe, around $10,000 because it sounds good. It's burn rate Tucker time. Start with 3 months of true burn rate, not ideal, not aspirational, real. Then work towards 6. That's not fear-based, that's math-based. 2. Reduce fixed expenses first. This is boring, and it works. Every dollar of fixed expense reduction lowers your burn rate, increases time to yield, improves recovery speed all at once. Negotiating rent, refinancing insurance, killing subscriptions. These aren't hacks, they're leverage. 3. Create income redundancy, not hustle culture. This is important. Income redundancy is not grinding yourself into dust, turning every hobby into a side hustle. It's having at least one income stream that isn't tied to your main job. Freelance work, contract projects, royalties. Even small amounts matter because they slow the bleed. 4. Automate the boring wins. Automation removes emotion. Automatic transfers to savings. Automatic investing. Bills and autopay. You don't need motivation. You need momentum. The identity shift that changes everything. Here's the final shift. Stop trying to become someone who makes good money. Become someone who handles disruption well. Someone who doesn't panic when life gets messy. Someone who has time to think. Someone who can say no. That's the upgrade nobody flexes on social media, but it's the one that actually works. Bringing it all together, when you stop measuring success by balances and start measuring it by resilience, money becomes quieter, less dramatic, less emotional, more boring in a good way. And boring money is powerful money. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Financial success is not about how impressive your bank balance looks on a random Tuesday. It's about how boring your life becomes when something goes wrong. When your car breaks down and it's annoying, not catastrophic. When work gets shaky and you have time, not panic. When life throws a curveball and your finances don't immediately spiral. That's real wealth. And the uncomfortable truth is this. A lot of people who look rich are incredibly fragile. And a lot of people who don't look impressive at all are quietly unshakable. So tonight, don't just check your balance. Ask yourself, how many months could I survive if income stopped? How flexible are my expenses? How quickly could I recover from a hit? Because once you start measuring resilience instead of appearance, everything about how you use money changes. If this video helped put language to something you've been feeling but couldn't explain, hit the like button. It helps more than you think. And if you want more videos that break down money, the way it actually works in real life, not textbook fantasy land, make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.